that you can trace Problемista back to?
Yeah, I mean Tilda's character, Elizabeth, I've been wanting to do something with her. But so that and the very similar experience I had to the character in the movie were like things that I kept thinking about, and it didn't really go anywhere until I realized that I didn't have to tell the story in a conventional way, that I could make it kind of kooky. And really like the sort of like breakthrough was when I was like, oh well, what if Craigslist was a person? And then I was like, oh okay, like now I know what I'm doing. Now we're going. Yeah.
That's actually a good segue into one of my questions, which is, there are so many strange odd jobs in the film.
Mm-hmm.
What is the strangest odd job or gig that you've taken on to help pay the bills?
You know, after a while, none of them feel strange. Well, okay, I'll say that the happiest job I've ever had, the most joyful job I've ever had, was being a chocolate samples person. Because no one's mad at you. You know, like it's only a net positive in people's lives. But then I was just like an assistant to so many different kinds of people who like go on Craigslist being like, can someone please teach me the internet? And then you like end up becoming assistant for all those people.
I hope you have pull with the chocolate samples job, in case I give up on journalism.
It's really easy, and the only requirement was that someone had to take a picture of me doing the job so that my boss had documentation of the fact that I did it. Because there was no money to report back. I could have just eaten all the chocolates.
Because you said Elizabeth was so central to the film for you,
Yeah.
did you always envision Tilda in the role? How did she come to the project?
I mean, I have been a massive fan of hers. Like, if someone was like, Julia, who's your favorite diva? I'm like, Tilda. Is it Mariah? No, it's Tilda. I've been such a massive fan of hers for so long, and no, I did not see when I was writing Elizabeth, I did not see her as the person who is on screen. When I heard that Tilda was interested in being in the movie, it just changed completely into this odd, bizarre, beautiful thing. And like truly one of the happiest moments of my life is like talking with her about what her hair was gonna look like. And like talking with the wig maker about the hair.
Can you share some of that conversation with us?
Yeah, so I wanted for the hair to be the kind of red that no woman actually intends to get. But if you land on that red, it wasn't by choice. And then we also wanted for her haircut to be sort of fighting her hair texture. Like the backstory that we made was she saw a picture in a magazine, and she went to the hair salon and she said, I want this, and they were like, well, with your hair texture, and then she was like, no, I want this. And then they probably gave her like a lot of products to use every day, but she doesn't. Yeah, we had a lot of fun with the hair.
The hair is magical. It really like sells the character.
The hair, yeah, and we wanted also like, she's like constantly adjusting throughout the film, and I said like, remember like whenever Liz is adjusting, she should be thinking about how much she hates the hairstylist. And like she should be like looking at herself in the mirror being like, fuck. So that was her motivation, I guess, for many of the scenes.
What would you say Tilda brought to the character that you didn't necessarily envision when you were writing it?
It's this sort of like beautiful chaos. I think that she got a lot spikier with Tilda, and also like what was really great about it is that Tilda has such a long career of playing otherworldly, and so she brought this like monstrosity to it that I felt like it really needed, so that it wasn't just mean old lady, because we've seen that movie, but for her to be like, and even like her eyes, like she decided that she wanted to wear contacts that were just a little greener than her regular eyes. And that really, I feel like it was such a, every time I see her eyes, I'm like, yeah, they really look like monster eyes piercing out of a cave.
I was struck watching the film, which I've seen twice now, by how you play with what Ale and Elizabeth have in common, and what creates moments of tension between them. There's sort of bigger differences. I'm wondering if you could sort of summarize, because I'm sure it's too long to go through all of them, but what do you think draws them to each other? But what do you think makes them sort of different enough where they're constantly...
Yeah, I think that they're both difficult in their own ways, and I didn't want the movie to be just a movie about like perseverance, because even though it is that movie, it's also a movie of like a very particular young man who, I feel like every artist makes things harder on themselves by deciding that they want to do that. And so the idea that like he is attracted to problems and she is the biggest problem. And in many ways I think that she embodies New York. She embodies the decision to be an artist, which is temperamental and difficult and very like unpleasing in a lot of ways. And I think that they're both attracted to the impossible, but he lacks the teeth and she lacks the empathy, I think.
The voice memo that she sends him at the end is like, makes me teary every time I see it, because that's the moment where you're like, oh, they do really fundamentally get each other on this level.
Yeah, I think they do. And I think that no one gets her, and too many people think they understand him, but they don't.
Interesting. Can you elaborate on that a little? Like, what do you think people on the outside assume about Ale that's not?
That he's like just this like down on his luck, poor little guy, and I think that he's more than that. He has chosen the path. The most treacherous path. You know, he came to the U.S. by choice. and once here, he decided to do things that were hard enough on someone who wasn't worrying about a visa, but decided to do like, again, like picking the most difficult answer every step of the way. So I think that people are like hung up on the like, oh, poor little guy, and it's like, this poor little guy kind of likes having it hard because he gets to like prove himself. And I think that she gives him for like the biggest test. And that's why he's so attractive to her.
One thing that I think is so charming about the film is the way that you put together realistic things like the labyrinth of the immigration system or of bank overdrafts or of the art world or anything, but sort of turn it into this kind of absurd comic situation. And then there's all these, beautiful design elements. I'm wondering do you have a way of describing your style as a writer, director, creator of art?
I mean, I like working with metaphor, obviously, and I keep saying that I really enjoy showing things as they feel rather than as they are. And that labyrinth, that's what it feels like, right? And in my experience, it was applying for a work visa, but like, we're all trapped in our own little labyrinths. Like for a lot of people, it's like navigating health insurance and like the maze of like, I need the surgery and this part covers and this doesn't cover, and I feel like a lot of living in the US is like so much paperwork. And there's always this like cloud hovering above you about some piece of paper that you maybe did incorrectly and it'll come back to haunt you. And but yeah, I enjoy showing things as I felt them.
Speaking of,
Or being shot at by a bank person. That is truly like, it's like, oh yeah, that's what it feels like to think you had $100, but turns out you owe the bank money now.
you capture how frustrating things like being on an automated telephone call are better than anything that I've seen in a long time, or maybe ever. Like the first scene where Elizabeth is just like, no, operator, human being.
Well, that works. That's a tip by the human being. That'll take you to a human.
I mean, and
It's a little hack.
I don't know if I've ever seen anyone crystallize it that well, and
Yeah.
it's also hilariously funny.
Yeah, it's something so existential about it, right? It's like, see me, empathy.
Speaking of style, one of the things that I wanted to ask about is there's a sort of trash motif running throughout the film. Very
Yeah,
beautiful,
I love trash.
Very beautiful piles of trash,
Yeah.
but also like tangled cords,
Yeah.
clutter. Can you talk about? Well,
I would love to.
why do you love trash?
Well, so our production designer, Katie Byer, and I adore her, and she worked on this movie, Sola, Janica Bravo's movie, Sola, which I love, and the reason I knew that I wanted to work with Katie was because in Sola, every time they're like inside an apartment, there's so many plastic bags. And I loved it because that's the world that we live in, right? There's so many, we're like always surrounded by so much trash. And something I love about New York is that you see all this like trash still lives everywhere. It's always like, oh, a broken TV next to a mannequin, next to a dollhouse, like another stained mattress, and there's something very like and I really wanted to show New York. I didn't want the, no offense to my gals, but the Sex and the City version of New York. You know, I didn't want to show it like glitzy, because that is at least not the reality that I have lived in. So I wanted to show how shitty it is, but I wanted to do it with love. And I wanted to be like, isn't this shitty place so beautiful? and that's why, like, all the trash. And I was like, and I was also very I wanted there to be like sparkly stuff in every trash. So like, if you look, there's like sparkly little things in every trash mount.
You also, I think, capture that New York in even where Elizabeth lives is not
Yeah.
a lap of luxury, but especially Ali's.
No, you can tell that she moved in there somewhere in the 90s and like no one told her to go. It's like, oh yeah, I guess
Do you
it's like an
feel like,
oversight that she's still there.
do you feel like movies and TV shows avoid that too much? Like, was it
Yeah,
was it
I
attractive
mean,
to
like,
you to do that?
the reason why, like, it was hard to find, it was at first a little hard to find Alejandra's apartment, is because movies and TVs are just so used to avoiding that kind of apartment. They're like, oh, okay, so he's young. It's like, yeah, he's broke. Yeah, okay, well, here's this loft. Here's this, like, gorgeous, like, clock tower that he's gonna live in. And I really wanted to like show how like cramped and dingy all these places actually are.
One thing that I love is the toys. Well, so first of all, have you pre-purchased your ticket for Barbie yet? Greta Gerwig?
No, I'm aware. It was just like, I don't know her. No, the reason I made that face is because it never occurred to me to pre-purchase it. I procrastinate. No, I'll probably see it like a week after it comes out. But no, Barbie coming this July, June? July, right.
The
If you
real
walk
question-
away from this thinking of a movie to watch.
The real question I wanted to ask is
Yeah, what
what,
was it?
your,
Sorry.
what your toy design process is
Oh,
like.
yeah.
Like, those are so striking and funny and unexpected. Are you like Ale, where you carry a notebook around and you're sort of jotting down ideas, or how did you come up with those?
I do carry, I do scribble, but it's, like a movie rather than like, toys. But I like, that felt fun because because originally he was going to be a writer, and that felt like too nebulous or something. I liked how specific it was that he wanted to make only existential toys. That was like a non-transferable skill. And I like that because it mirrored Bobby's, like, he's a painter, but he will only paint X. Like, you can't ask him to paint anything else. Like, I like to imagine that, like, something that I told Risa is, like, imagine that at one point a gallery said, we're gonna have a whole show if you paint one painting that doesn't have an egg. And it was like, no. It's a movie of stubborn people, really.
I do think you were right that the Cabbage Patch Dolls idea with the smartphones, like sharing Venmo requests, would be a huge success. Like, that's a multi-million-dollar idea for sure.
Well, hopefully they adopt that idea and don't sue us. There's a lot of potential lawsuits coming this movie's way, and now that it's Biometric Pro. No, they'll love it. They'll love it. They'll love it.
I mean, it's brand recognition. I had never heard
It's
of
brand
Biometric Pro.
recognition, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sort of wondering to get to a couple of the more serious themes. What do you think causes Elizabeth's sort of Hydra personality? Like, what's the root of that? Is it just about Bobby's illness and freezing, or do you think it runs?
No, I think that she feels misunderstood. She assumes that she's being like gaslit by everyone, I think. And I think that he was the only one who didn't make her feel that way. So she's like, I gotta get this, I gotta make this work. But no, I think that she constantly feels attacked. And very othered by people.
So I wanted to end with a question inspired by Ale's mother's description of the monument at the end of the film. She calls it a monument to doing what scares you and assembling yourself in the chaos. After everything that you've achieved in the last couple of years in particular, what scares you now, looking ahead to the next thing?
What scares me now? You mean professionally, not like a flight?
No, you can. I mean, you can talk about something personal if you want to talk about something personal in front of all these people.
What scares me? No, I mean, no. To be completely honest, this is I think like a very vulnerable but very honest answer. Is this movie being out in the world and what people may like it or may not like it? I'm very grateful that I no longer have a Twitter. But yeah, no, that scares me.
Do you have expectations for what you would like people to take away from it? Or is it just the unknownness of it that scares you?
I would like for people to feel like the movie shows something they have felt but hadn't seen. Because that's sort of the kinds of movies that always stayed with me. The kinds that like articulated something that I had felt but had never seen someone put it in that way. Or if they don't see themselves in the movie at all, for them to like leave it with some sense of empathy. I mean, for like anyone in the movie, not just Alejandro.
Well, I think based on the reaction in this crowd that I heard when the film was ending, I think you've succeeded at that. So congratulations.
Oh, I had a little boombox with it.